Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister, does he stand by all of his government statements and actions?
I am very, very proud of this government's record with working New Zealanders, because let's go through it. Wages grew slower than inflation for 13 quarters in a row under a Labour government. They've had 4 quarters of wages growing faster than inflation under this government. This is a government that gave low and middle income working New Zealanders sensible tax relief the first time in 14 years. Not an ideological issue at all, just sensible common sense. This is a government that reduced the Auckland regional fuel tax. We got rid of the ute tax. I can tell you average rents since we've come to power are stable, not up $180 per week as it was under the Labour government. Inflation's down, interest rates are down, tax relief's being got to, and we have supported New Zealanders, low and middle income New Zealanders, through a cost of living crisis created by that government. Inflation is down, interest rates are down, tax relief has been delivered, fast track delivered, confidence is rising, growth is coming back, crime is falling, police are on the beat, gangs are on the run, phones are gone from class, and kids are getting back to school. Mr Speaker, we don't need a year of delivery. Every year this team delivers, period, and that's what we're doing. We're getting New Zealand back on track and cleaning up Labour's mess. The member has no economic credibility, to be honest. I mean, this was a Prime Minister that increased spending by 84%, drove up domestic inflation, drove up interest rates, put the economy into a recession, and that rises unemployment. The Labour Party used to care about working New Zealanders. This is the same party that actually opposed tax relief for low and middle income workers for the first time in 14 years. Don't you want to help low and middle income working New Zealanders through a cost of living crisis? That's what we're doing on this side. We're making sure we actually help people. How have we helped them? Inflation relief, interest rate relief, tax relief, family boost, working for families credits. That's what you do when you care about working New Zealanders, unlike you lot. But actually you had your go and you screwed it up.
Parliamentary question, Mr Speaker. So why does he think he's the most unpopular Prime Minister in New Zealand's history? And what does he think Nicola Willis is more likely to replace next year? The Inter-Island ferries or him as Prime Minister?
Oh, I mean, that is a bit rich, isn't it? Isn't that a bit rich? How are the conversations with David Parker and Kieran McAnulty working out, son?
Chloe Swarbrick.
To the Prime Minister, e tautoko ana ia I ngā kōrero me ngā mahi katoa a tōna kāwanatanga.
Yes, and especially our action to pass fast track yesterday. And I saw last night that one very brave Green MP acknowledged he's been listening at question time, saying in the House the Prime Minister wants to tell us that we should be supporting fast track because of the renewable energy projects, because of the housing projects, and I couldn't be more pleased that my message is finally cutting through to some Green Party MPs. And it's not too late, because fast track might now be the law. Thank you, David Parker, for the inspiration. But there's still just so much more growth and development to come. And so once again, and not for the last time, I call on all those Green MPs who actually care about climate change to back the projects, back the economy, back renewable energy and housing for working New Zealanders, because we need to grow this joint. I'm very proud that our emissions reduction plan too, delivered by an excellent climate change minister who is actually managing to deliver net zero 6 years earlier and keep our economy growing. Well done, and I'm very, very proud of that. We're on track to deliver net carbon zero 2050 as we have committed to doing. The means may be different by which the Green Party might wish to do it, but we don't want to total our economy. We actually want to make sure we grow our economy. We want to make sure we get things built in this country. We want to support low and middle income working New Zealanders. I am very proud of the obligations that we have put around the unemployment job seeker benefit, and that is entirely appropriate. We want to have a safety net. We want to support people when they need help, and that is funded by your fellow citizens and fellow taxpayers. But there are also obligations. Meet with your case manager, put a resume together, and show up for the job interviews.
Is there a job for every New Zealander who is currently unemployed and on the job seeker benefit?
We are working hard to make sure we get people off welfare and into work. But what we're not going to do is what the last Labour Greens government did, which is low unemployment at 3.2% and yet 70,000 more people on the job seeker benefit. We think there's a better pathway for people, which is a life of work, and that's why we're doing everything we can to get the economy growing, to support low and middle income working New Zealanders, and to make sure we get people off welfare and into work, which is great for them and their families. What's not acceptable is increasing spending by 84% borrowing more, taxing more, spending more, hiring more, and on every account, delivering worse outcomes under a Labor Green government. That's what we saw the last 6 years. We're not doing that. We're making sure there's maximum value for money, that we are getting resources moved from the back office to the front line, and we're investing for growth.
Why?
Supplementary, the Honourable David Seymour.
Did the government cut taxes for landlords or simply restore the very consistent and sensible tax policy that was the case for the first 4 years of the Labor Green government?
I am proud of what we have done to make sure that we stabilise rents for renters. Isn't it interesting, since this government came to office, average rents have not increased. They went up $180 per week. That causes huge pain and suffering on working New Zealanders. This is a government, by restoring interest deductibility, a legitimate business expense, by removing the bright line back to 2 years and ensuring we get the balance right between tenants and landlords, has ensured that we actually have rental stability in this country.
Prime Minister, supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
A point of order, the Honourable Kieran McAnulty.
Thank you very much, sir. Just for the clarity of the House, if a minister makes an incorrect statement today, when are they expected to correct that? By the end of today's sitting, or will they have to correct it on the first sitting day back next year?
Well, it's the first opportunity that where the House is sitting, first opportunity after they know that they were able to confirm that there has been a mistake in something they've said.
Thank you.
Chloe Swarbrick.
He pātai tāpiri, supplementary, Mr. Speaker. Can the Prime Minister confirm that since coming to office, rents have increased at double the rate of average CPI inflation?
Labor and Greens quoted that number at me last week, and I just would say to you that since we came to power, our rents have been stable. If you take the full year, which is including the period of the Labor Greens government, rents are up, as you have talked about. But you've taken an annual number rather than the number from when we came to office. That's what we measure ourselves against.
WhangāreiTim.
My question is to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by all his government statements and actions?
Our government is taking responsibility for the challenging economic conditions we've inherited, and that is why our plan is so important for the future of New Zealand. What we know, and as we heard from Katie Bradford last night, if we'd allowed Labor to carry on running the show, it'd actually be a lot worse with respect to our deficits and our surplus. What we know is that, the minister, the shadow minister, says surplus is a moot point. We know the current leader of the Labor Party says we absolutely need to increase debt. Taxing more, spending more, borrowing more, hiring more, non-delivery has led us to this position. Economic mismanagement and vandalism over the previous 6 years, but this is a government cleaning it up, and haven't we made tremendous progress? Inflation is back under 3% for the first time in a long time. We have actually 3 interest rate cuts after having, I think, 12 interest rate rises. We have business confidence, farmer confidence, consumer confidence, and more Kiwis thinking New Zealand's heading in the right direction. We don't believe that creating big bureaucracies, massive centralisation is the way in which you improve outcomes for Māori. We are fixated on actually improving outcomes. Despite the much vaunted Māori caucus and a Labor Greens government advocating for Māori, outcomes for Māori went backwards. And so we are determined to make sure that we take them forwards. The fact that Te Pāti Māori hasn't had a conversation about why 9 out of our 10 young Māori students heading into high school are not where they need to be on mathematics is shameful. We have actually seen stable rents across this country since this government came to office, versus $180 per week increased on average. The measures we've taken, interest deductibility, bright line test readjustment, and getting the balance right between tenants and landlords have made a difference in the rental market.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Is the Prime Minister's message to the Te Pāti Māori and some of his supporters something that's totally alien? Shortly that they'll have to get off their backside and do some work.
I don't think that's something the Prime Minister has any responsibility for. WhangāreiTim.
Supplementary. In short, what does the PM say about the government's austerity policy driven the economy into a deeper and longer recession? That means it will have to borrow $20 billion more over the next 4 years than it stated 6 months ago.
Well, I'll just say there is no doubt if we'd carried on with the previous lot, the economic mismanagement would be worse. But this is a government that has found the right approach, because we know carrying on the program as it was, spend more, tax more, borrow more, put us in this mess. What we know on this side is that we are finding a balanced approach through it by making sure that we actually move resources from the back office to the front line. We get value for money for every dollar being spent. We deliver tax relief to low and middle income working New Zealanders who that side should be caring about but don't seem to anymore. And importantly, we're laying up the conditions for future growth.